Welcome back to peer-guided DBT lessons provided by DBT Skills Application, Peers Helping Peers. This week's lesson, marked 1-4 in our mindfulness module, we will be looking at How Skills Part 2, Non-Judgmentally, Effectively. Please keep in mind that we're simply peers helping peers, working together to bring about more peaceful, constructive, and ultimately happier lives. In other words, a life worth living. So what are the how skills of mindfulness DBT skills? The how skills are simply, how do we practice mindfulness? What skills? John Kabat-Zinn, PhD, founding executive director of the Center for Mindfulness in Medicine, defines mindfulness as paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. In other words, non-judgmentally, one mindfully, and effectively. In this lesson, we'll be looking at non-judgmentally and effectively. So let's start off with non-judgmentally. If we leave the brain to act on its own, without purposefully directing it, the mind will automatically judge things as good or bad, right or wrong, fair or unfair, important or unimportant, urgent or non-urgent, and on and on. These judgments occur so fast that our experiences are automatically colored by our interpretations the moment we experience them. Mindfulness is being aware of that tendency, but being willing to take on fresh perspectives. It means looking past those automatic classifications. Judgment is our perceived values, learned from past experiences. An example of this, in the illustration of the bananas above, is bad versus good versus bad. Where does your gauge arrow point? Which bananas in the chart are good and which ones are bad? What assumptions led to this judgment? Which judgment or value assessment is accurate? It depends on what caused us to judge it that way. On the one side, we have the good. To the cook, all above are good. On the right, we have the bad. To a person with an allergy, all above are bad. Non-judgmental mindfulness opens the door to see things from different perspectives. Next time you see me, don't judge me. I am just a banana. Since mindfulness is about connecting to what is going on around us in the present moment, it could be said that it is about connecting with reality. Judgments are not the facts of reality, and in fact, only exist in our minds. Whenever we add in our interpretations to what is happening, we move away from the goal of being in the moment as it actually is. The personal interpretation or judgments people make of a situation is usually what triggers a person to become emotionally dysregulated, rather than the actual situation itself. Any of our negative judgments tend to escalate our emotional pain. A non-judgmental stance benefits. Number one, the non-judgment stance of mindfulness helps us nurture a more peaceful state of mind. Because our judgments are no more than a temporary thought crossing our minds, if we let go of the judgments and go back to the facts, we will find that the judgment of bad is causing more stress and discomfort than the actual situation. Freeing ourselves from the interpretation bad helps us let go of the unnecessary suffering caused by this value rating or judgment. Number 2. The non-judgment stance of mindfulness helps to open our eyes to the beauty in life that we most likely have been missing. Judging something instantly as good or bad would mean that we need look no further because we have already given it a classified value. The next logical assessment then would be to judge things as neutral, to avoid the extremes of good and bad. The problem with judging anything as neutral is that this assessment also says to the mind that this is not of enough value to be worthy of our attention. When we remove all judgments, including neutral, we open our eyes and mind to truly explore the raw reality of what is. This gives us the opportunity to see the beauty and wonder that life offers. Any object or activity can enrich your life if we only take the time to openly observe it. People tend to miss the wonder of what surrounds them because they erroneously judge it not worth their time. Number 3. The non-judgment stance of mindfulness helps us get off the ongoing treadmill of perpetual dissatisfaction. A major cause for disappointment and dissatisfaction in most people's lives is their endless quest for more or better than what they currently have. This comes in many forms. We want more money, more prestige, higher accomplishment, more power, higher titles, etc. The judgment we make that says that what we have now just isn't enough feeds the motivation to ceaselessly pursue more. While setting goals for ourselves to continue improving ourselves as a person is important, we should not get so caught up in pursuing goals that we miss out on all the amazing things that are in our here and now. If we let go of our judgment that what we have now is not good enough and accept what is, we can open ourselves fully to living a life worth living right now. Number 4. The non-judgment stance of mindfulness helps us to see reality more clearly, thus respond more effectively. For as long as we continue to view our experiences through the distorting lenses of judgment, we will only be able to react to our judgments and our own personal interpretations of the situation. If we let go of our judgments, we're able to see things as they actually are. Responding effectively to reality is a much more practical interaction to any situation than the ineffective reaction to our own interpretations of the same situation. Practicing the non-judgment stance of mindfulness makes it possible to make a direct connection with the experience as it occurs. Now let's take a look at effectively. To practice mindfulness effectively means that we are actively applying the mindfulness concepts. It requires the continued learning and practicing those skills. Effectiveness in mindfulness becomes apparent as we notice the strengthening of our mindfulness muscles as we progress. To practice mindfulness effectively means becoming aware of the space between our emotions, thoughts, and actions. Effectiveness in mindfulness become apparent as we become less impulsive due to realizing that we can feel and think without needing to react to it. To practice mindfulness effectively means we are actively reducing our judgments of ourselves, others, situations, thoughts, and emotions. Effectiveness in mindfulness becomes apparent as we let go of judgments that have been holding us back from living life to the fullest, which causes us to see an increased sense of compassion within ourselves. To practice mindfulness effectively means we go back to deliberate focus of our minds when we notice that they have begun to wander. Effectiveness in mindfulness become apparent as we realize that we are becoming resilient to mind wandering, and we notice that we are spending less time ruminating and worrying. So what is living effectively? Being effective is a mindfulness skill in itself. Effectiveness requires a mindful method of functioning. It means being willing to accept the present moment just as it is in order to maneuver through the current situation in a manner that effectively works to help us achieve our objectives. Effectiveness captures the dialects of DBT by acceptance of the present moment and responding to it with flexibility to reach our goals. It means choosing actions that are not only appropriate, but at the same time will move us closer to our objective. Being effective is doing the very best you can in the current moment, not sitting on our hands just wishing that the reality of our situation were different. The key to this, or to any new skill, is practice. The great thing about mindfulness is that it's nice to do. It can take as little or as much time as you like, and it brings a sense of peace, a clearer head, and a greater focus. So practice, practice, practice. Be sure to check the video description in the comments below. You'll find a link to the website lesson that accompanies this video. You will also find links to the handouts and worksheets created to complement this video. And while you're there, if you found this video helpful, be sure to like it. Next week in our peer-guided DBT Lessons Mindfulness module, we will be looking at Wise Mind. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel where our entire DBT course is now available. Thank you for watching and hope to see you next week.